the fundamental problems with all accountants and finance folks is you're spending 95% of your time assembling something and 5%, 10% trying to understand it.
Welcome to the Financial Innovations Podcast. We're helping CFOs save money and time by investing in cutting-edge technology. Really excited today to have Yaser Ali on the call with us. Yasser, great to have you on.
Yeah, no, likewise. Glad to be here, Daniel. Excited to talk about financial innovation. It's a topic that I think is near and dear to every CFO's heart.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's part of the reason we started the show is we found that there are a lot of CFOs out there that are different stages in terms of the companies that they work for, the what budgets they have available to them, what ideas they have available to them, and we just wanted to make sure that we can share this out there. So, just highly encourage anyone tuning into the show, make sure you comment, subscribe to the channel. So that way, you get all the latest innovative ideas over here. One of the areas I think we started when we started this show was heavy in terms of like what technologies and things are you using. And I think as, we've met, I think we've interviewed probably over 30, 40 CFOs at this point, but where it's not just necessarily the technology that you're bringing in. A lot of innovation comes from just simpler things like ideas, processes, people and roles that you're bringing into the organization. So, I'm particularly excited to talk about this today with you because I know you bring a lot, in terms of process innovation and really just, automating, streamlining processes in terms, to kind of build value to the organization. And maybe do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into that and maybe some of the things that you're excited about?
Yeah, no, so early on in my career, I was in charge of fund accounting, fund management for a fund that was roughly around $20 million at that time. And ultimately, it under me grew to about $860 million. And I was doing the work more or less single-handedly. And of course, to be able to do that much work, you got to be able to find efficient ways and so on. And so when I started getting into automating spreadsheets, being able to pull certain data instantly, I realized the value of that, right? Being able to automate, innovate, it allowed me to do so much more with less. Again, when I first started, I was doing roughly 2 weeks of manual effort. Now I'm, coasting through in a day or two with, several thousand projects. And I think, it was a great lesson early on because I realized like the power of being able to automate, make things much more efficient, and data, it gives you a lot of power to make the right decisions, better decisions, and so on. I do have a Six Sigma background. And so that's always, interluded with everything I do, where I really like to break down process and, refine it and make it so much more simple, but robust in that sense. So I think one of the companies I worked at, for getting out our invoices, there were 27 touch points. So 27 times a person had to be involved in some way or another to get an invoice out. And I think if you aggregated all those hours or time up, it was somewhere around like 4 or 5 hours to get one invoice out. Right. And that's what I mean. Like I went in and just completely destroyed that process and rebuilt it where it had 4 touch points and was done within minutes. And I think oftentimes, just because that process is in place, we're comfortable with that process in place. But I think soon as you lift up the covers, you realize like there's a lot of low hanging fruit that can have a significant amount of impact on the business.
I think one of the common phrases I hear as I go into all these different companies, and it's kind of universal, where it's not just small companies, large companies. Everyone is, you start to ask a question about, hey, why do you guys do this the way that you do it? And more often than not, the answer you get is, well, that's how it's always been done, right? And there's kind of that. That feeling that just because this is the way that the process has worked, that this is how we have to continue to do it. And not a lot of people actually take the time to break that process down and say, well, wait a second, first of all, is this reasonable that it takes this long to process one invoice? And maybe we can look at some of the steps here, and maybe if you look at it as a whole. I think one of my projects I was on, we went through a big, lineage project for a large bank. And, they wanted to have like the whole team work a weekend. And they said, hey, we have this process we need you guys to all run through. It's a 7-step process and can't be automated. And so you guys just have to kind of spend, your Saturday and Sunday doing this. And, whoever looked at it to see if it could be automated just, saw a couple of steps that required manual intervention, and they said, oh, we can't do it. Right. And, I took a look at the process and said, well, maybe we can't automate all 7 steps, but isn't there value in automating 4 of the steps or 5 of the steps? And, we had that done. And, instead of everyone working, a Saturday and Sunday, everyone worked for like an hour or two over the course of one of the days, and we were all done. And, and a lot of people don't, take the time to go and look at individual components of an overall process, because they just see the process itself as a, monumental task. And, this is how we did it, so let's just keep doing it that way.
You're exactly right. Like I think people are intimidated because they're not sure what they're going to uncover. But oftentimes, what they will uncover is actually a lot more straightforward than they think. And there's so much opportunity, again, to just get very simple and have a process that's so much more efficient than this buildup of processes that has happened over years and years that's just way too inefficient.
Right. So when you look at processes, in terms of trying to figure out what is it that I want to improve, is there like a certain benchmark that you're looking at? Like, obviously, like I don't want to see if we can automate the task that takes 2 seconds to do, because there isn't like a whole ton of value. But like, how do you find kind of that balance of what's worth investigating and breaking down and looking at in more detail versus what do we just say, what, whether it's efficient or not, maybe we don't necessarily care about it at this point.
Yeah, no, so I think it's the end product of that process. So in this case, invoices going out on time, right? That's huge because every minute or day you're late, that's later you're going to receive the payments. So a lot of it is just understanding what the end product is of that. If I want cash balances or if I'm doing budgeting, if it's the most significant items, then uh, that will go into it. But yeah, I think to answer your question, it's kind of a marathon, right? Where um, I may not have a specific way of doing it in 1 month because it's all the external factors, internal factors that I'll kind of bring together and see what's important, and then based on that, kind of drive my decision to how to approach.
Right. So it sounds like you're kind of looking at what are the key activities that need to be performed, and then maybe either it's down on paper or even in your head of a, does this sound reasonable in terms of, you know, I mean, I think the decision's a lot easier if you're constantly late on making payments of, hey, we got to, change up our processes here, to make sure we're paying on time and not, getting hit with any late fees or anything like that. But, in other areas you're looking at, is this kind of core to the activities that we're performing? Is there opportunity there? And then is the opportunity something where, the process is very inefficient, where we could, cut the time in half, or something significant versus, hey, this is something, yes, it's manual, but it's quick. Let's just leave it alone for now. And if we have a little bit of a break here or there, we could always reassess later on.
Definitely. All in addition to that, I think it's also driven by any particular task that I'm trying to solve for. So, as an example, in one company, we had really high freight charges. And so we set up a process that would trigger whenever there was a freight charge being utilized, right? And the reason why I did that, it wasn't necessarily to solve the problem there, but it was to understand what the issue was. And what we realized was freight charge was used as kind of a um, first line of defense when it should have been like the last line of defense, right? So we should have planned accordingly 3 months prior, gotten it on um, cargo ships, and then that would have been much more affordable for us and we would have saved more. But since we would miss that, what we would all end up doing is we would put it on air freight, and which would cost the company a lot and take away the margin as well, right? So then to tackle that, we were able to go figure out a better supply chain S&OP process.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Because it's, you're using the data to drive, hey, let's come to the underlying reason why, and then let's go and look for alternatives in terms of, going and, are there more, cost effective ways of being able to do the same activities? If you're not looking for and measuring these types of things, if you're just kind of looking at, an overall, here's our budget, here's a threshold for error, and this passes the threshold, you're not going to uncover, many of these opportunities that you might, just by saying, hey, look, this doesn't seem, reasonable over here, or it seems kind of high. Let's look and see, are there opportunities to drive down cost? But in order to get to those opportunities, you first have to understand why you're in that situation in the first place.
They're absolutely, and to your point, something that I'm really excited about in recent times is most CFOs, most people in accounting and finance, they would stay within their office and just kind of figure out what they have to do by themselves. Now I see more of these folks getting out, understanding the business more, understanding what type of technology and software is out there as well to like help them facilitate in whatever they're doing. And I think it's a huge movement in the right direction for sure. Because again, um, I have met CFOs that spent 20 years in their office and would get up to do their monthly reviews, and that was it. But now they're much more involved in the company, the business, and being able to tackle issues such as the freight issue, as I mentioned, and just getting much more involved.
Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more. Where, I mean, I've commented on this on some past episodes, but just kind of the CFO in general. Maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you start to talk about, technical terms, and even just saying, hey, you have a data warehouse or this or that, and it became a, hey, let's redirect this to IT to talk about this, versus a lot more, CFOs you're seeing more often than not. You can have even some of these conversations, and when it comes to software, to more technical pieces, And a lot of this technology that's come around has opened the door to finance really being a partner with the business versus just a hey number crunching, where we're sitting in a closet somewhere and 10 of us in the room and trying to figure out what our cash flow is over here versus now. You see a lot of finance functions that are going out into the field. Hey, let's go to our manufacturing plant and see what the operation is like, and that's spurring a lot of ideas in terms of can we be more efficient versus just kind of the theoretical aspect that it was of hey, let's try to cut our budget by 10% next year. Well, if you don't understand the processes and how the operation is going, then you may be suggesting and recommending things that just don't work and have an adverse impact on the business.
You're 110% right. That's exactly what I see as well. And, I think, especially in my last few roles, it was funny because I was the biggest proponent of getting new software or getting new technology. And they're all, the first thing, of course, I heard is, no, you're the money man. You're supposed to say no, right? And and I said, look, like spending the right amount of money will get you the right results where you're not breaking backwards to save a nickel here or a dime there, right? Like, one example of that is needed to expand our team of contract lawyers that I had under me. And of course, hiring lawyers, it's pretty expensive. And what I did is I went out there and looked at software contract contract pod AI, which would learn the habits and the redlining efforts that my attorneys would make and essentially start doing the same redlining on new contracts that would come in. So instead of having to sign or hire like 8 or 9 additional attorneys because of the volume we were doing, this software was doing it seamlessly.
And a lot of those contracts are standardized contracts where it's very similar changes happening, where it's not like you're creating new legal language in every single contract that's out there. A lot of it's very similar in terms of what the terms are, the language of it, where something like that is easier to automate, and very well aware of the legal fees associated with even just simple contract review. Where being able to reduce the number of lawyers looking at your contract and just, hey, review these changes rather than, take the time to write up all these changes and everything will, could save a significant amount of money.
That's exactly right. And so, while, at that time it was $30,000 for us, it's like, wait, you're spending $30,000. But it's like, no, the $30,000 will pay back and then some, and which it did. So I think, for CFOs, I'm starting to see that where they're getting out of that phase of, um, blocking everything just to save their budget now to spending on the right items because they realize like the value of it.
Yeah, that's a great point and great segue into the next question I wanted to ask is that, we've kind of gotten into this age, especially with all this, SaaS software where you don't, you used to have to, call IT, wait 6 months for them to stand up a server and install the software that you wanted on there. And then you could start thinking about using it and all of that. And now it's, hey, put your credit card in, click a couple buttons, and you have an application, fully provisioned and ready to go for you. But kind of with that's come, in some ways, an inundation of software and applications that are out there, and in many cases, it's hey, just pay $100 a month for this software and $200 a month for that software and all this stuff, and before you know it, you're paying $20,000, $30,000 a month on on 100 different software platforms over there. How do you determine like what what's kind of worth looking at and not? Because I mean, according to all these vendors, everything is you need this, you must have, our product for this and for that, and solve this issue and that issue. But like, how do you, as the the end customer, filter through kind of the noise of all of that and say, all right, here's what we truly need and what's worth looking into more?
Yeah. So what I would do is I would take like an inventory of all the different software that we have within the company. And from that, one, try to triangulate, what's similar. Um, let's just use Contract Pod AI. Is there any other software that we're paying for that's similar? And if so, how do we merge that together? Either bring the other teammates onto Contract Pod AI, or do we go to whatever software they have? But I do think that is very important. And I'm glad you brought it up because I have seen you can hemorrhage your budget very quickly by doing that. This person has Adobe, this person has X software, and it just ends up being so large where you can't manage it.
Right. And I've even seen, to bigger scale, someone buying enterprise Tableau licenses and the other department has an enterprise Power BI license. And it's, hey, they're both dashboarding platforms. There may be a valid business case for it. But I think something that often gets overlooked is, in that the whole total cost of ownership of it's not just a matter of the software licenses either. It's also a matter of now you have to have in-house experts that know different technologies out there, and maybe you need to have multiple people where if you were consolidated on one platform you wouldn't need as much support around it.
No, exactly right. At least in the companies I've been at, I've had IT take that inventory of every single software out there, and any new software that was being put as a request had to go through IT so they could, say, hey, yeah, we already have a license for this. We can add on to it, or no, we have something similar to that. But I completely agree. You have to be able to keep track of these items. Otherwise, yeah, again, it just can grow so large where it's,
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I know you mentioned contract pod AI over there for for that. I know that a lot of companies out there, it's kind of opposite end of the spectrum approach when it comes to things involving AI, right? Where there are some that are, hey, let's go and use AI for everything. There are those that are, hey, I don't know if I fully trust this yet or think it's going to work. Let's kind of wait. And I think in the process, a lot of companies out there look at, hey, am I too late to the AI game? When is the right time to start looking at that? I mean, maybe if you could talk a little bit about kind of, it sounds like you guys are, early adopters when it comes to, AI types of innovation over there. But, for those that are kind of wondering, do I wait? Do I jump in? Like how do I approach AI?
yeah, I think, AI for me and others, I would say, is taking it on uh, software basis, meaning, whatever your need is, and if there is a tool for it, going after that. I don't think you have to go make this massive push to be fully AI adopted. And something that I do is for my more entry level and junior folks, I keep them away from AI. The reason why is because I want them to understand the mechanics of how to do something rather than just going asking AI and not knowing, the fundamentals. So like the more senior people, I absolutely encourage it. I mean, of course I encourage the junior entry level folks, but I think for them it is important to like really build up that fundamental skill. And in terms of AI adoption, again, just kind of looking back at my career, it's really where there's a need and how can we fill it fast and efficiently, and that's when we'll adopt new AI products. But I don't think we're anyone who's joining now is not late to the party. I think you can always still do it. But it's just, again, finding the right software that fits your company and can do what you need it to do. That's more important than, rather than just getting a software. Maybe 10% of it is useful and the rest 90% you're not getting any use out of it.
Yeah, and I see that as being a big trap that a lot of companies fall into, is that you get kind of inundated with hey, AI is the big craze over there. If you're not using it, you're an idiot, and you're going to lose to all your competitors and this and that. And it kind of creates that fear of, let's do this out of fear of losing a competitive advantage versus through a need of we're going to implement this because we need it, in there. And more often than not, companies get distracted with, hey, this person told me I need all these fancy dashboards because, dashboards are all the rage. And this one's telling me I need AI because AI is the next frontier over here. And, in that process, it kind of distracts you and takes you away from, the core, your core charter and what it is that you're looking to do and benefit your organization.
You're exactly right. And two, um, a lot of software companies are very generous in what is AI, right? They may have a very small feature that's AI, and it's a AI software all of a sudden. So I think, you have to be careful there as well, like knowing if the software really is capable of doing what you want it to do and has the AI features that, you know, give it that special um, uh, AI power versus just a regular software with some AI noted next to it.
Right, because now everyone, they'll throw a chatbot on their website and say,
Hmm.
"Hey, we're AI first over here," and
Yeah, exactly.
and then you look at the software and it's, "Hey, this technology's been around for the last 50 years, and there doesn't seem to be much innovative over here." I think that just it makes me think of a lot of end customers are putting on their RFPs and stuff to software vendors. Do you have AI capabilities? And everyone's going to answer yes, even the guy who has the small little tiny component that's in there. So it just reminds everybody of, hey, this is kind of your you got to be careful what you're putting as requirements, and you really have to know what it is you're looking for and you want, versus just kind of putting the word of the day out there, and looking to check the box.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, for example, there was a software I was looking at. It had AI related analytics. And so I was very interested in that and I wanted to check it out. But what it was essentially doing was giving you just normal reports. There was nothing AI about it. So for me, like AI means, I know, for example, in a distribution business, right? I have 100 products that need to be shipped out today. I have 10 people working and they can ship out 10 products an hour. And so for me, it's not just illustrating that, but it should say, hey, if you were to have two people, you're fully covered and you'll save excess of um, 8 people not working for 8 hours throughout the day, right? Bringing something uh, above and beyond than rather than just a standard report. That's what I kind of want to see.
Right. And being able to answer those ad hoc, questions that you come up with as well, where, like, what I've found is that a lot of time is being spent creating reports that are just like a one-off question ask, right? And someone's going in, they're formatting things and all that. And I actually have an AI product that I'm be releasing in about a month over here. But where you can just go and ask a question, what were my sales last month, or what were my sales for the last couple of days, and it'll go translate it into a query against whatever source you have over there, and give you the answer, right? But what I've found too is there's a lot of hesitancy and resistance with AI like that, where is it giving me the right answer, or is it hallucinating with the results? So we built in some audit capabilities in there too, where you can go and see, here's what I'm querying, where I'm going against. You're free to check all this stuff yourself, so that way you can do it. But what I've been finding as we've been piloting this and testing it out is that it's not like, for the person that's asking the same question every month, what were my sales? What would, show me my top 5 vendors, show me my top 5 customers, that kind of stuff. You could create reports for a lot of that, right? But it's those, one-offs, like, hey, can you break down, what happened yesterday, or whatever, and can you go find me the source of this particular piece of data? Those types of things, where you're not going to go have somebody create a report around it and format everything for a question that you ask that's highly customized to a given situation. But being able to ask that question, get that answer within a second or two, have it already formatted, could put it on slides, dashboards, all that kind of stuff. So that way you don't have to go and spend the time building something that that you're going to use for 5 minutes and then throw away.
I think you hit the nail on the head here. That's, in my perception, that's what AI is, right? Being able to do that instant um, uh, calculation to figure out what's needed, what happened, and surmise what exactly went down. But right now, yeah, it's just more reporting, which is great. But you want that extra above and beyond description where you can go right away. So you're not doing that manual effort that takes a couple of hours, just formatting, putting things together, and not having enough time to decipher. I think the fundamental problems with all accountants and finance folks is you're spending 95% of your time assembling something and 5%, 10% trying to understand it. And so being able to flip that and having it where you're really able to understand something, I mean, that empowers you so much more to make the right decisions and, help bring change to the company.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that, especially with emergence of AI, everyone kind of wants to be the cool person that's, oh, we have AI capabilities in here. And, many times you just have to ask the question of, is this different from what I have today? Because pretty much everyone out there has capabilities to create structured reports, create structured dashboards. If you don't have it, I mean, it's cheaper than ever. You could spin up, Power BI for like $20 a user over there, and have, dashboard capabilities in there. But it becomes something like, hey, you want to put in all this effort to have, AI going and creating things that, really it's an activity you only need to do once, and then just run over and over again, versus the activity that's going to change. It's the, where is the value to, those particular products. If you've taken a hit once to make a formatted report, then there's a high ROI on that, versus you're creating a report every single day with different structure and different statistics and all of that, and then it gets looked at, it, gets thrown away, and now you had 3 analysts working for 4 hours on this one report.
No, I completely agree. I couldn't agree anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like, kind of, your thoughts on that, on just AI in general, is, having looking at what are the processes that we have where it's going to add, the most amount of value, and be something that, that we can use. And it sounds like, it's something where, you encourage others to explore it, to look for, not necessarily all become AI companies and start, building your own AI solutions for everything, but starting with a look what's out there and see if there's something that's already out there that solves the problem. and then let's kind of analyze and and look at something like that first.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like, again, um, I've come across so many senior leaders where they have no idea what's out there in terms of technology and software. And to your point, there's already something out there. You just got to find it and, kind of seek out for it. So I think, I'm starting to see that now, folks coming out of their shells and like really digging into what's the best alternative for them that will not just supplement the work they're doing right now, but also give that extra depth perception where they didn't have before. And I think that's where AI is really being instrumental.
Right. How do you, kind of find the different solutions and things out there? Are you just kind of Googling it? Are you going to certain conferences, or like what do you recommend as a good way for those out there that are interested in, adding other pieces of software and technology into their environments to learn about them? I imagine you're flooded with vendors every day saying, "Hey, this is you need our software for this and that." And they're going to show you all the fancy, technology that they have versus what you actually need. So I guess, how do you filter through all that and really be able to independently come to, here's what we truly need?
So, surprisingly, of all the messages I get all day, I actually read every single one. I may not respond to all of them, but it's in there in the back of my mind, like, hey, this company provides this type of software that does X, Y, and Z. And I think when it comes time, I'll start Googling and doing my own research, seeing what's the best and figuring out, um, what's the best solution for the company and for the problem I'm trying to solve. So it'll, yeah, more or less we'll start out with, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? And then I'll go research the various softwares out there and see which one is the most compatible with that. But I think, with it, you really do have to still dig in and do your own research just because there is so much out there. And you really have to understand, what the capabilities are of each of these softwares to know, like, is it the right fit?
Right. Yeah, no, that's interesting, because I know a lot of people just kind of send to spam or trash or whatever anytime they get any kind of message that seems like a pitch of some kind for software. But you're looking at it to see, all right, let me just understand what it is that this technology does. Keep that in the back of your mind for, as you're kind of independently looking through, what does our organization actually need and what can help us, and then kind of matching up, oh, I saw something about this company a while ago, and that's an initiative we're looking to automate or enhance. Let me take a look deeper into that, and then you might start doing your own independent research for that. But to your point, one thing that you mentioned there that I think is just extremely important for everyone watching to keep in mind is, you want to do your own independent research on these different technologies, because every demo that you see, a lot of people just say, oh, show me a demo of the software and show me this and that core feature out there. And when you see a demo, it's an isolated environment that's not connected to anything of substantial value in there. And so it's very easy to see something that you say, wow, that could really work for us. And then you go and spend a lot of money implementing it. And it turns out that, either, it couldn't be done in your case, or it could be done, but it's not very user friendly in there, and your users end up hating it. So, you end up not using and benefiting from the capabilities over there. So, it's always very important to, kind of do that independent research, so that you're not just kind of taking someone's word for that this is what you truly need, but you're actually evaluating that yourself.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I've come across so many uh, softwares that folks have just bought and spent a significant amount of money and that are just essentially sitting on the shelf because they're not usable for their business. So I agree. Like you have to do the work. You have to really understand the software and its capabilities.
Right. And two, it's a matter of, what is, I think something that's often overlooked is, what does it take to maintain this and to be able to do it? Because, more often than not, you're going to be shown the best features of the product in the demo. When you ask the questions of, can it do this? Can it do that? You're always going to get the answer of yes. No matter what vendor you're talking to out there, they're going to tell you yes. And more often than not, customers don't ultimately understand the, like, well, what does it take to be able to have this kind of feature out there where you look at kind of that total cost of ownership being not just the put your credit card in and spend $200 a user a month for the software, but what does our team need to look like to be able to support this? Is this something that our finance function can support? Do we have to get IT involved? Do we have to hire outside consultants to manage it? I guess how where does that kind of stuff stack up in how you're evaluating different platforms?
So for me, like when evaluating a platform, I think one, um, I want to bring as many people involved into it. The business operations side, the IT, of course, more or less should lead the charge on it. So we can all kind of decipher, like, from each of our aspects and departments, what really is the best solution, what will work, and if we have to invest in having a, employee to maintain the software, what does that entail? So we can really have all the facts when we're making the decision. But you're exactly right. There are many software out there that we've gotten, and again, sitting on the shelf because no one knew what the next step was to move it forward.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be in a spot where you spent a lot of money on the software, you spent even more on the implementation of it, and then one little change, you change your process and you need to change it, and now nobody knows how to do it and can do it. So they say, all right, well, we can't use the software because it's doing it the old way that we're no longer doing anymore.
But going back to this again, I'm a big believer in bringing everyone involved in it, and the reason why is when they're part of the decision making, they're so much more inclined to utilize the software as it should be, and then you have like a better system. But if I go in and say, hey, all of you guys are going to use this new software, they'll you're going to get some reluctant. And so this goes to help, one, ease that, but two, really evaluate the software and make sure that it's the right fit for our company.
Right. Yeah. And to that point, it's, there's the immediate user base of the product, which, will be, maybe your finance team, whatever type of software that your legal team, if it's the legal software over there. Then there's, also, the IT team of, do they need to support any aspect of this or handle our configurations, that kind of stuff. And, it's funny because I feel like when the business was more reliant on IT, when all this software had to be installed on, your own servers and all of that, there was always this internal battle between, the business and IT in terms of, how to get this software in there and everything. And I feel like now that things are more cloud based and easier to set up, that it's no longer, that battle of, us versus IT. It's more of a collaboration of us and IT to to get there.
No, completely agree. I'll tell you, ever since I've been working, I've always been best friends with the IT folks. They're good people to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's you know, it's funny because I mean for me, you know, I my first job was doing IT support. So I started out kind of in that area and then moved into, you know, technology implementations and stuff. But, you know, it's always funny to kind of see the dynamic of you know, different groups and IT, and you know, it's interesting to kind of see, you know, who's partnering versus who is, you know, hey, get this done for me and it has to be done by, you know, 20 minutes from now, you know, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely great, you know, great points over there. I know we're getting kind of towards the end of the show over here, but any other you know, words of wisdom, information that, you know, maybe we haven't talked about that you think it would be important to kind of share with the viewers?
Yeah, I think again um, it's really getting out of your comfort zone and really going and seeking out various technology. Even if you don't need it at that point, I guarantee you at some point or another it will be useful. And there have been so many times where, again, just going through my LinkedIn messages, where it's provoked a memory like, oh yeah, I remember this software does that, and going back and being able to investigate it more. So I think it's really important to not close-minded with technology and innovation. Like you really got to put yourself out there and constantly think about it. And even when you implement everything, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. It's constantly evolving, and you have to see what's the next best thing out there that will help your company out and get you further along. So
Yeah, no, I mean those are great points. It's, you know, don't get lost in, you know, just the way we've always done it is the way we always have to do it. And you know, even just in that relationship with the software you have, of just because you bought this product 10 years ago or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best fit for you today. And you know, there may be you know, other benefits that you get from, you know, just always being on the lookout for, you know, what are the, you know, what is the cutting edge features that are out there today? Is this something that aligns with our business and something that we could benefit from?
no, exactly. I think you always have to go back to the question, what can I be doing with extra time, right? If I was not doing manual work, what could I have been doing? What exercises could I have done that would add value? And just look at it from that perspective, and how, if you get the right tools in place, you'll be much further ahead professionally and for the company.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny because, you know, a lot of people will look and say, oh, well, something technical, IT should be looking into this or whatever. And it's, nobody knows better than you whether, you know, an activity that you are doing, you know, would be better being automated versus, you know, you having to spend hours doing it. And to your point there of, you know, thinking about what would I be doing with extra time, you know, many people don't think about that and just like, hey, here are my tasks and everything. And you know, it's a good way, you know, to stand out, you know, personally and professionally, if you start kind of changing the mindset a little bit to, you know, what higher value things can I be doing, not, you know, hey, if this process gets automated, am I out of a job? It's a, how do I do the next job? How do I, you know, how do I create, you know, maybe something that hasn't been envisioned yet in terms of a need or a role that the organization needs, and you know, how do we just, you know, improve and make the organization overall better off?
I know that's exactly right. And I think the reporting you end up with is so uh, incredible for the company and the business and so on. I think it'll change everyone's opinion for sure. Just kind of how I went and was outlining the products that need to be shipped out by how many people are staffed. Just even having that analytics, I mean, it can save the company tons of money a year by not having to just keep 10 people around all day for product that needs to be shipped by one person.
Right, right. No, that's a great point. If for anyone watching that has either questions or would like to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do it? Is it LinkedIn? Are there other forms?
LinkedIn is the best.
Okay. All right, perfect. We'll put a link to your profile in the description here. That way, it's easier for everyone to be able to connect with you and find you. Really appreciate having you on the show. I know I got a lot of value out of this session. I know everyone tuning in will as well. Great having you on, and we'd love to do a follow up at some point in the future to see what other innovative pieces that you're bringing to the role.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, Daniel. Great meeting you.